our invocation. Did you hear me, Robert?
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because my iPad is freezing up from time to time, so I don't know whether it's at our end or somewhere between Honolulu and California. And good morning, everybody, and welcome again to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. I invite you to close your eyes, relax, take a deep breath, and breathe in spirit and breathe out spirit, because spirit is always there. We are always within spirit. And I know that this Sunday service is already the best Sunday service ever, because this is the best day ever. Every single day of our lives is the best day ever. I give great thanks for that. I give great thanks for each and every one of us here today, and for each and every one of our community who may not be here today. We proceed today in love and wisdom and community, and especially in unity, because oneness is what it's all about. I give great thanks for this. I know it's so. Together we say, and so it is. So the quote of the day is from a fellow, Ram Dass, who spent many of the last years of his life right here in Hawaii on the island of Maui. And we actually had the opportunity last year to see him and see the movie, well, not last, I guess the year before last, and see him and see the movie about his life. So he says, when the faith is strong enough, it is sufficient just to be. It's a journey towards simplicity, towards quietness, towards a kind of joy that is not in time. It's a journey that has taken us from primary identification with our body and our psyche on to an identification with God, and ultimately beyond identification. And that, I pick this because it speaks to me. It speaks to me of the multiple paths on our journey, which is, as I understand, will be at least part of Reverend Michelle's focus this morning in her talk. But it also speaks to me of oneness. We move from identification with our body and our psyche to identifying with God and knowing that we are within God, that we are individualized expressions of God. But the ultimate goal is to get beyond identification with God to the point where we know deep within our being that we are one, that we know it so deeply and so thoroughly that we don't even need to think about it anymore, because it's part of us. So with that, I guess we move on to the affirmation for February. February's affirmation, I invite you to read it with me or say it with me. Today, I trust the journey that life is taking me on. I rise above my fears and doubts and keep moving forward in my life. I remember that I am wonderfully and lovingly created. Today, I live as if I mattered. Today, I am grateful for everything in my life. And I'd just like you to take about 30 seconds, close your eyes, and be grateful for everything in your life. And as you come back to whatever room you're in, you'll be treated to yet more wonderful music from our musical maestro.
Thank you, Robert. Anyway, one journey, many paths. Basically, yeah, we all need to get together and just realize that we all come from the same source. From that one power. There's one power, invisible. And you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable. And you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angel's wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love that's in you and me. One power, one power, one power. We speak so many languages. We've got different clothing, we're different colors, we've got different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart, we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Ashram or Heaven's Door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me. It's the moment of creation. It's an everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness, the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby, the serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon, for it's love that is most deep. It's one power, the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. One power, one power, one power, the power of love in you and me. Amen. Thank you. Blessings to all.
Thank you, Richard. That was beautiful. That was just like a prayer. It felt like a prayer. Oh, so lovely. Yeah. Good morning again. And welcome to the online Sunday service of One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living on this first Sunday in February. Our theme for the month, new theme for the month. And the reason that I asked Richard to do that song is one journey, many paths. One journey, many paths. And that's really what One Power is all about the different ways that we interpret our relationship to the divine. And of course, this is one of the basic teachings of the science mind tradition, New Thought in general, that there are many ways to understand and to cultivate a deep relationship with our Creator, with the divine presence that's within. And while there are many paths, and they may use different names for God, have different beliefs, and use different spiritual practices, they also have many commonalities. Abigail's here today, and she and her husband Steve started Point with this idea in mind that we have more commonalities than we have differences. We have most traditions celebrate a loving Creator. They celebrate the unity of life. And there is always a call to compassion and sacred service for others, and really for all life, for our beloved planet as well. And I would also include secular methods of understanding ultimate truth as other paths as well. There's psychology, philosophy, actually science of mind is considered a philosophy, and science and art and literature. There are so many other ways in which and methodologies that we would consider secular that also bring us into a deeper connection with the idea of ultimate reality. I would call these contemporary theology, if you will, a new way, a new language to understand ultimate reality. I wanted to, when I think about different religions, I always think of Thomas More, and he wrote a book called A Religion of One's Own. And I wanted to share a quote with you because, first of all, I just think it's so true and beautiful. And it kind of gets to the point of the talk today. So I'm going to share my screen with his quote. And he wrote this in Religion of One's Own. The religion I'm putting forth is not the domesticated, tamed, rehearsed, and constantly repeated variety. It is ever revealing and renewing itself. When I say that it is your own, that's what I mean. It's not someone else's summary of what you should do and be. It is the constant new revelation of the deep truths that can shape our life. I love that line. The constant new revelation of the deep truths that can shape our life. That's beautiful and so true for me. This is the religion. This is the religion that I want. This is the religion for me. Constant new revelations. Yes, I can really lean into that. And Ernest Holmes, our founder, told us, I don't want to get it wrong, he told us that that the science of mind, it's actually right on the first page of the Science of Mind text, where he says that the revelations of religion must keep faith with the reason of science. They're both important ways of knowing and developing our own unique path for living an awakened, fulfilled, and meaningful life. These are the ways that we connect to the God of our understanding, whatever name we call it, not a God that is out there somewhere, but a God that is active in our daily lives and that we can experience in and through and as our lives every day. A personal walks with me throughout my day kind of divine loving presence, accessible and real. This is the kind of practical spirituality that we're looking for in the 21st century. So that's what the month is really about, is embracing the many ways in which we experience or can experience ultimate reality, God truth. So today's talk title is called A Clean Slate. And as soon as I heard that line, a clean slate, I immediately thought of an Etch-a-Sketch. Anybody else think of an Etch-a-Sketch? You remember those toys that have been around forever? I know I had them, my kids had them. They have a red plastic frame with a little screen and the little white knobs that you turn, and then you create a picture on the screen. And then when you're finished creating your picture, you can pick it up and shake it like this, turn it upside down and shake it until you have a clean slate to create your next picture. And until I watched a YouTube video the other day, I really had no idea how an Etch-a-Sketch actually worked. I had made up this idea in my mind that it had something to do with what do you call those little lead shavings and magnets, and that somehow or another that was what was drawing the picture. That's not true, by the way. It turns out that there is this very fine aluminum powder that sticks to the inside of the screen, and the stylus that you turn by moving the buttons is actually removing the aluminum powder on the parts of the screen that reveal the picture, whatever picture it is you draw. And in a way, we could say that we're removing the aluminum powder to reveal the picture that always lived in potential on the screen. So, I know I read that Michelangelo said that he would remove the extra stone to reveal the statue. So it's kind of that idea. And, from a metaphorical perspective, it's kind of a wonderful way to explain creating a new slate for our lives. In the Science of Mind tradition, and actually in many other traditions as well, we teach that within us is a seed perfection, an authentic God. And our part is to connect with this seed perfection that is already within us and to express its qualities as our life. Ernest Holmes told us, I think I wrote down the page number, but I didn't do it as a screen share, but I'm just going to read it. Ernest Holmes told us that the original life is infinite. It is good. It is the essence of purity. It is power. It is law. It is life. It is in us. And the idea is that we have everything we need within us right where we are, and as artists of our own life, as Etch-a-Sketch artists, we're empowered to remove the things that might be in the way of that inner light so that it can shine through in beautiful ways to bring about our good. And as we bring about our good, we bring about others' good and good for the world as well. So in keeping with the idea of timeless wisdom, evolutionary vision, that was our theme for last month, I just want to draw into our awareness that there are many, many practices and methods from many different traditions and disciplines to help us connect with and live the goodness of this seed perfection. We have wonderful spiritual practices in Science of Mind tradition, but there are practices throughout all of the many disciplines that are throughout human history that can also support us in connecting with that seed perfection. So, I want to do one more quote from Thomas More that speaks to this as well. And he's talking here about creating a religion of one's own. I just love the idea of having a religion of our own. I think I have to change because honestly, there are as many religions as there are people walking the planet. We all have to find our own way of connecting with that ultimate truth, that power within us. So he wrote this, Thomas More, a religion of one's own. This new kind of religion asks that you move away from being a follower to being a creator. Do you not love that? I love that. Move away from being a follower to being a creator. I foresee a new kind of spiritual creativity in which we no longer decide whether to believe in a given creed and follow a certain tradition blindly, but rather are able to appreciate many routes to spiritual richness. Oh, I love that. And there are so many, and we practice a lot of different things in Science of Mind. We pull from many, many different traditions. In Centers for Spiritual Living, we have always pulled from the ancient Eastern traditions and contemporary traditions, from science, from all different places where that can support us in connecting with that seed perfection. It's one of the things that drew me to Science of Mind in the first place, the desire to find truth wherever it shows up, from the Bhagavad Gita to the poetry of Emily Dickinson's, and what was it Einstein called it? Even the spooky action at a distance that Einstein talked about when it comes to quantum physics. So, wherever we look, there is, in nature, there is always something that will draw us into a new relationship with that presence that's within us and remind us who we are. So moving back to the idea of a clean slate to create something new on, our internal etch-a-sketch, if you will. I'd like to draw our attention to the principles of the creative process, which of course we teach in Science of Mind and New Thought. And the concept, and we use this a lot as well in Science of Mind, that principle is not bound by precedent. I've always loved that line. Spiritual principle is not bound by precedent and what's come before. We're talking about the creative principle here, the idea that what we hold in mind and heart, because it has to do with our feelings as well, impresses upon a universal law that demonstrates our thoughts and feelings into form and experience. I do have another slide I want to share, and this is the quote from this Science of Mind text where Holmes talks about principle not being bound by precedent. And let me get it up for you. Let's see if I can find it. There's our last one. Oh, maybe I didn't share that one. Sorry. Let me just read it to you then. I do have it on here. I thought I had made a slide, but I guess not. So let me read it to you. Where is it? Here it is. Because we fail to realize that principle is not bound by precedent, we limit our faith to that which has already been accomplished, and few miracles will result. So if we think that that what has come before has some precedent, some power over what we can create in the future, then we'll just keep repeating the past, right? Our future is not limited by any previous experience we've ever had, unless we believe that it's limited by our previous experience. And of course, then it will be, because that's our belief. And, here's the thing that I've discovered is often a belief that the past will repeat itself is not even a conscious belief. If principle works only with what is in the thoughts and feelings of the one using the principle right now, then only what is being felt in this moment and thought and feeling is what will be created in the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. Was that clear, or was that, did you understand what I was trying to say? I kind of tripped on my words. When we hold something in mind in this moment, that is impressing law. And if we move out of the idea that what has come before is going to recreate itself and move into an opening to something new, then that's something new. And we feel as if the thing has already created itself right here in consciousness, then it will demonstrate in our lives. And that means that in every moment, we have the opportunity to create a new slate, to create a new thought, a new idea, to create a new experience in our life. And that's what the whole idea, I think, of creating a clean slate is all about, is not depending on what has come before, but moving into the possibility of the future. You know, human beings are such creatures of habit. You know, we repeat patterns all the time. We easily slip into old patterns that where we repeat our thoughts and feelings and actions, and they eventually become kind of hardwired. We know from scientific research that what we think over and over and over again create neural pathways, and our brains will just automatically repeat themselves without us even having to think about it. So sometimes, even without our realizing it, what wires together will play itself over and over and over. So to break that repeated pattern, we have to do something to pull ourselves out of the old way of being and recreate our lives in a fresh new way. We have to disrupt the pattern, in other words, if you will, to open up the opportunity to create something new. And we have many wonderful spiritual practices to do that. In the Science of Mind teaching, we believe that creation, like all things in the natural world, is simply a cycle. We use the metaphor of the seed, soil, and plant all the time so that we can understand how this creative cycle repeats itself and how it's our responsibility, if we don't like the harvest, to plant a new seed. And where do we get our seeds? So here is where I do have the quote. I have another quote from Hobbes, the one I kind of shared with you already accidentally. And here it is. So where do we get our new seed? Here, Holmes answers this for us. Can you see it clearly? When in thought, in contemplation, in imagination, in inward thinking, we consciously return to the source of our being. The divine pattern, which already exists, springs forth into newness of manifestation. And that's where we get our new seeds. We get our new seeds from what is already within us, that seed perfection, if you will, that Holmes talked about, that is already deep within us. And here is where we could go to tap into the timeless wisdom from other traditions to connect with this divine pattern, this seed perfection that is already within us. So I'd like to talk about 3 different practices that I think illustrate how we can create a clean slate on which to build a new life. And those 3 things that I want to talk about, and honestly, I could probably do an entire talk on each of these 3. But as I was preparing, I was thinking, here's some really great examples of how we can create that clean slate. One is forgiveness. The second one is honoring our passage through times of traditions, which I know we've talked a lot about. I know Maureen and Robert did a whole series of Tuesday night classes on moving through transitions. And the last one is keeping a Sabbath, which I really try to do, but I have to admit I'm not really very good at. And like I said, I could probably do an entire talk about all of these separately, but today I'm going to talk about a little bit about each of them. So forgiveness is a practice used in almost all spiritual traditions and in other programs and organizations as well. And when I say that, I'm thinking of 12-step traditions particularly. Traditionally, we think of forgiveness as something that we ask from a higher power outside of ourselves for any transgressions that we feel we've committed against God or others or even ourselves. In metaphysics, however, we view forgiveness in a slightly different way. We view it as a return to that seed perfection that I've been talking about, that is already within us, a realigning with love. Forgiveness is a shift from fear to love. It really doesn't have anything to do with another person or an organization or event. It doesn't have anything to do with anything outside ourselves, even though it feels like it does. It has everything to do with how we feel inside. You know, forgiveness is really about not limiting our freedom, our peace of mind because of someone else's actions or some event that happened outside ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we don't have pain or suffering or heartache, but it means we are willing to move through it, to experience it and move through it and move forward and let life love us. It creates a clean slate. Okay, this has happened to me, and I'm willing to move through it and move on. It doesn't define who I am. And I always think of, when I think of other traditions that practice forgiveness, I always think of confession, which is practiced in the Catholic Church. And really for the purpose of forgiveness, of asking God something outside ourselves to forgive our sins, and I know that I've said this before in other talks, but I think that confession has the potential to be a very powerful spiritual practice, to stop and take account of the things we've thought or said or done, and ask ourselves, is this in alignment with my values and my ethics? Was I kind and loving and compassionate in this particular situation? Was I a blessing to the world, or was I out of integrity with my beliefs? To really take stock, to take inventory, and I think this is a very powerful practice, not from the standpoint of asking somebody else outside of ourselves, a power outside of ourselves, to forgive us for something that we believe we did, but it's a call to take a deeper accounting of who we are, how we have behaved, how we want to behave, and where we're going to go from here, to connect with that seed perfection within us. And from a metaphysical perspective, it's becoming aware of everything and making corrections where we feel it's necessary. And not because it will please something outside of ourselves, because it expands our own lives and draws us into a greater expression of good, a greater expression of love, a greater expression of peace and compassion and connection, when we connect with who we truly are and we create a clean slate from there to start anew. And in the 12-step tradition, they have a very powerful practice of taking a daily inventory. It's really the same thing as confession. After the day's gone by, you sit and you look at, okay, how did the day go? Do I need to forgive myself for something I've done? Do I need to forgive others for any errors they've made? Dr. Joe Dispenza shares a practice of daily inventory in the evening as a meditation that I often do. It's a process of becoming aware of what is expressing itself through us and creating a new thought, a new feeling, a new belief, especially when we see beliefs that we're hanging on to that really have not served us and are not serving us. It's a chance to create a clean slate and move forward. And I think that it's important for us to remember, as metaphysicians who understand that we are creating our lives all the time, that it's not only what we think and what we feel about ourselves that demonstrates as our experience. And I think this is really important, and sometimes I forget this. So I wrote this pretty much to remind myself. But we also attract into our experience the judgments that we visit on others. If we are judging somebody else, you can bet your bottom dollar that it is going to show up in your life in some way, which makes a daily inventory a really wonderful and powerful spiritual practice. Forgiveness centers us in the loving wholeness within us, and it allows us to create that clean slate where we can create something new. I love the line in the Science of Mind text where Holmes said that love knows only love. And as we align ourselves in that loving presence, then we will tend to see love in everything around us. and create that clean slate. I want to create from love. I don't know about you, but I bet you do too. And if I am centered in only love, and love knows only love, then that is what I am going to impress into law and attract back into my life, to create a greater good for myself and for everyone in my atmosphere of being. So another practice that I think is very powerful, a powerful way to create a clean slate, our little etch-a-sketch idea, and that's honoring our life traditions. Now, and as I said earlier, Maureen and Robert did a whole series, I think it was the book called Hell in the Hallway, where they talked about moving through transitions that we experience in life, honoring the times in our lives when we move through transitions, when one cycle ends and another cycle begins. And I'm talking about transitions that are welcomed and celebrated, but also I'm talking about transitions that can be really challenging and painful, a death, a divorce, a lost job, a pandemic. Anybody experience a pandemic recently? And these are important and critical times. They're choice points, if you will, in our lives, when we can decide whether to honor what has been and use this transitional time to design a new future to move forward, or we can sit around and regret and bemoan and belabor or stuff the things that happened before, in which case they'll just drive our life until we decide to move into something new. So to honor those times when we move through metaphorical death and to create a new birth of some kind. I really believe that these times are opportunities to create a new slate in which we can write our new future on. They're moments of empowerment in which we've been given the gift of being able to be empty again. I'm sure you all remember that little story about the Zen master. We've probably heard it a million times, who he's entertaining a student, and while he's pouring the student's cup of tea, he just keeps pouring and pouring and pouring, even after the cup is full, and the student freaks out, and the master acknowledges that he's illustrating the idea that you cannot fill a full cup, that your cup has to be empty in order for you to receive something new. Well, I believe that that's what these transitional times offer us. In these moments of transitions, whatever they may be, they empty us out for a greater yet to be. And as a friend or a family member, either a biological family member or a spiritual family member, these transitions that we see other people going through give us the opportunity to show up in deep compassion, to support each other. And even when there is nothing we can do in the outside world, it gives us the opportunity to be the presence of love through a listening ear and a listening heart. And that's enough. And as we do that for others, we do that for ourselves, because we have to connect with that which is love within us. So transition times are that space between the old life and the new life, when there is this inner reorientation, realignment is happening within us. And it's a time to honor as sacred that clean slate as we consciously begin to create something new that we want to experience in our life. So forgiveness, clean slate, letting go of what has been, letting go of any fear, and coming back into the center of love. Honoring those transitional moments that are inevitable in our humanness, letting the divinity within us guide us into a new yet to be. And finally, I want to invite us to try on the practice of having a Sabbath. And I confessed at the beginning that, or in the middle, that I try this every week. I try and make Thursday my Sabbath. And up until now, invariably, I end up doing some kind of work or something. But having a Sabbath is a really important thing for us as human beings, a time to rest, a time of weekly renewal. You remember that story of Jesus, and he's walking through the crowd of people, and a woman who wanted to be healed touched the hem of his garment. And do you remember what Jesus said? He said, "Who touched me?" He was immediately aware of it. And he said that he could feel the power go out of him. And he was deeply mindful of the flow of life moving through him and through everyone for that matter. And this is a reminder, at least it's a reminder for me. It made me think how when we love to serve, when we love to be a part of life, there is also that time when we need to rest and renew and rejuvenate because we're human. We need to have that solitary rest where we can reconnect with that clean slate within us that is nothing but the seed perfection. I mean, if you read throughout all of sacred stories, that cycle is repeated often. Jesus in the stories of Jesus in the Bible was forever going off and resting, taking his disciples somewhere to rest. As human beings, we need that time where we're just caring for ourselves. Otherwise, we cannot care for others and contribute in a positive way to the world. There's this beautiful South African story. I wrote it down because I don't want to forget it, but I think I remember it. About a tribe, a South African tribe, who was always, they were a nomadic tribe, and they were always on long journeys. They would march day after day after day. They would keep going. Always they would be walking. And then they would stop walking and they would sit down and they would rest for a while and they would make camp for a few days before going any farther. And they would say that they needed this time of rest. And I love this line, so that their souls could catch up with them. The Sabbath is a time that we take, a time out, so that our souls can catch up with us. And what a beautiful and a powerful idea to let our souls catch up with us, to take time, to watch a bird or a sunset or read a book or talk to a friend. It's a wonderful and a powerful practice to take time to meditate and to pray daily. But to honor a Sabbath, an entire day of caring for our own soul and connecting with others from that place of our soul, it just makes the purpose of life much more meaningful. And the delight of the business of life much more enjoyable, and there are, as I've kind of suggested here, a myriad of ways to create a clean slate on which to write your life. But it's so important. There's spiritual practices that we do in Science of Mind, spiritual mind practice, meditation, mindfulness. These all serve to silence our mind and to help us to get back to that seed perfection. The practice of forgiveness, taking time to honor all of life's transitions and keeping a day sacred just for ourselves, gives us permission to indulge in what feeds our souls. All of these things are so critically important for us as human beings. And so I invite you this week to try one or all of them on. Make a special day to honor as your Sabbath. Take a daily inventory to forgive whatever it is that you think someone has held against you or you have held against others. Move out of any of your judgments. Look at your life and look and see, where am I moving through some kind of transition? Honor that time. These are the ways we honor who we truly are and who we've come here to be. And it is my experience and my gathered wisdom from the wisdom of many different sources that we are here to love and be loved. And so I invite you to explore that idea this week in your own heart, in your own soul. And so let's pray. Taking a nice deep centering breath in. connecting with that clean slate, that place of the seed perfection, that place where life flows, that wonderful place of deep peace, of wisdom, of compassion, of friendship, of love, of beauty. I invite us to acknowledge that place, those qualities, that all that is, that wholeness exists within us, each of us, and within all life, right here and right now. We don't have to go out ourselves somewhere out there outside of ourselves to get it. It is already deeply ingrained in who and what we are. And I breathe that in. And I speak my word for and about each and every person that is on this call and each and every person that is not, that there is a shift in consciousness, a welcoming, a crack opening, where we allow these qualities that are already within us to be expressed in new and fresh and different ways, that we enliven ourselves from this deep connection in whatever way we draw it forward to experience a greater life individually and collectively as a human experience. And I know that these qualities of the divine are the seed in which we plant in the beautiful garden of our lives, and they cannot help but come into fruition, to grow into a beautiful divine plant, a plant of love, a plant of beauty and wisdom, of all good, of sacred service, of kindness, of compassion, of the juicy, wonderful, joyous experience of life itself. And so for this, I'm just so grateful. I'm thrown into an experience of openness and a creativity that I've never known before, because I know that gratitude moves me forward in ways that I can't even imagine. So I just take a deep breath. I sit in that atmosphere of gratitude. I release this prayer into the capable hands of law, and I know all is well and all is so. And I invite you to say with me, and so it is. I'm just going to take a nice deep breath and sit into that for just a minute. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Jim has been posting the quotes that I've been sharing with you along in the chat, if you want to hang on to them. Let me share my screen. It's time for us to move into our time of sacred giving, and I'm going to share the affirmation. First, I'm going to share the ways in which we can give. I want to thank everyone who continues to give and support One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. It supports all of the ways in which we share our light in the world through this beautiful spiritual family that we have. And of course, supports you individually, because we know as we give, we also receive. So I continue to invite you to give weekly, monthly to our center, and to let you know how grateful I am. And also that if there is a way in which you would like the center to reach out to you, or a family member or something in support, please don't hesitate to reach out to the practitioners that are part of this center. We are just willing and waiting to support you in prayer, to listen, to be heartfelt partners with you as you move through something that you're moving through in your life, or even if you just want to create something new in the midst of a pandemic that we're all walking through together. Please don't hesitate to reach out, because we are here and we are a spiritual family, and that's what families do. They support and love each other. So I invite you to say this affirmation with me as you imagine you're holding your gift in your hand over your heart. I recognize that my gift is an instrument of the energy and love of God. As it flows from me, it uplifts and advances all life, including mine. I give and receive joyously. I am so grateful, and so it is. Leslie, I'm going to hand it over to you for some announcements.
Okay. This being the first Sunday of the month, it means we have the opportunity to honor those who have a birthday in the month of February. So if anyone has a birthday in the month of February, if you will please raise your hand and we will join in celebration by singing happy birthday.
Oh, there's somebody.
So it's
Okay,
Jim.
I got to see who has it. So Jim, who else has a February birthday? I got to know who we're singing.
Anybody else?
Martha, are you a February? Nope.
No, no, okay. Richard, if you would please lead us in happy birthday.
Indeed. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Jim.
Tuesday night, our spiritual inoculation group is going to be led by Reverend Michelle, and she is going to be talking about writing affirmations. And then Wednesday night, our book discussion is on the Eye of the Storm, and it is in chapters 3 and 4 that we will be discussing. And Reverend Michelle sends out a copy of the chapters with the Zoom link. So be sure and read that and join us. Both of those are on 6 o'clock at 6 o'clock.
And you know, on Tuesday evening, let me just throw this in, Leslie. On Tuesday evening, I am not the only expert in this crowd about writing affirmations, but I just thought, you know, maybe going back to something really basic would be helpful for us, just as a tool to use in our daily life. So I'm inviting all of you to bring your wisdom of writing affirmations and how you've used them in your life to share with us. So, you know, please do that.
Okay, does anyone else have any announcements? Okay, it looks like that's it for the week on the announcements.
And I believe, Maureen, that you are doing the, yes, she unmuted. Perfect.
Okay, well, it's great to see everyone. And I just ask you to join me in consciousness again. Take a deep breath and just reflect on today's amazing message, which started with a fantastic song, Stepping Out. And I feel like I'm stepping forward. We're all stepping forward today with this Sabbath Super Bowl. And I know for each of us, we are one with the one. The many roads up the mountain, all the roads, they all lead to Rome, as the Romans would say. It's all one, and we're one with it, and we celebrate that. We celebrate that particularly today on the Sabbath, but we celebrate it in every breath we take. Because as Robert said, we're breathing in and breathing out the one, the Spirit. So I give great thanks to all of you for joining me today and making this a fellowship, a One Heart, One Mind fellowship, creating this church. And I give great thanks for each one of you who holds the consciousness as you step out the door today, who holds in your heart, as we said early, the love that is in each of us. So thank you, and have a blessed day, as we say, but I know this is the best day ever. I know this is true. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
And so it
Oh, it
is.
is.
I do want to mention, thank you so much, Maureen. That was beautiful. I also want to mention, as just a heads up, that on the last Sunday of February, which I think is, I don't remember exactly what the date is, we're going to do Practitioners Sunday. And several of our practitioners are going to give us a little bit of their wisdom about the journey to freedom, which is kind of the topic of the month and of that day. So heads up for that. You won't want to miss that. And Richard, we have we're going to do Blessed Always. So I'm going to share the lyric.
We'll sing this twice. There we are. Blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen. Blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen.
Thank you, Richard. I love that song. Such a great song. All right. So how is everyone? Would you like to share something about Rob that has his hand up? Yay.
Anyone would like to share something about Rob? Feel free. Hey, Michelle, I love the